Hey guys, welcome back to another video in Spring Boot series. So in the last video we discussed how can we return a list of videos when a title is not given to us, and when a title is given to us we can return a particular video object inside the list, right? But there are still few problems with this approach, right? For example, what happens if user sends us the title and that title doesn't exist? Right, and I think in that case we are still going to return a list, but that list is going to contain a null item, right? So let me run this application and then we can walk through what's on with the current service at the moment. So I'm again going to run the application, which is going to run this jar on the Tomcat, deploy this jar on the Tomcat, right? So service is running fine now. Let's head back to Postman, and if I go to videos and I don't send any title in the param, this should see both objects coming back. So that is expected, but if I send a title that doesn't exist, for example intro, instead of intro if user sends introduction, then 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 I send a list back which contains a null inside it, and this is not good, right? And let me show you why it is happening, because inside video service we are returning a null if we don't find anything, right? And that null gets added in the found videos list, and then we return that list back. So one improvement we can make here is that we can check if video is not equals to null, only then add it, right? So at least that way we are not going to have a null object inside our list. So let me rerun that and let's see what happens. um, this small change, what difference this small change is going to make, right? Again same thing. um, let's head back to Postman and let's rerun title with introduction, and we see an empty list. So little better than before, uh, but I think we can still do better, right? In this scenario we should, one thing, we should throw some sort of exception, and then instead of 200, okay, we should say not found, because this particular video with this title doesn't exist, right? So there are two things we need to handle. So let's handle the exception part first, right? So uh, if the video is not found, we are not going to add anything inside our collection, right? So if we say found videos um, is empty, right? So there is nothing inside the collection. That means we can throw an exception at this point, right? So we can directly throw a runtime exception, right? But I think a better way to do that is to utilize our own custom exception, because we can further make our own messages there or own status code there, right? So if we do that right now, let's run application again. um, Stop and run. Same old boring thing is going to happen again. Same jar is going to get deployed. I'll head to Postman, let's see, and we run this over again. Okay, so we can see instead of an empty list we are throwing an exception now. Instead of 200 we have a 500 internal server error, and that's what we are showing in the body. Well, a little better than before, but still not perfect, right? Because it's not an internal server error. It's a Our server is running just fine, right? It's a 404 not found error. We didn't get a particular item with this title, so we should be rather more specific. So to make that improvement, let's create a class called video not found exception. All right, and let's add it to Git, and then we'll say instance runtime exception. We're going to extend that, and let's just keep it like that, right? And let's update that uh, from runtime exception to video not found exception, right? So if we it is still doing the same thing, right? Because we are not we just wrote an empty class yet, but the magic is in one of the annotation that's from Spring Boot is called response status. And then in this annotation you can define different type of HTTP status code. So in this particular case we are dealing with a not found condition, so we can use HTTP status dot not found, right? And that's it. We don't need to do anything else. So if we go back here, this is fine. Let me read the application again. So now since application is running, let's go back to post, and instead of internal server error 500 I should see 404 not found. Let's hit again. So you can see 404 not found, 404 not found. So that's great, right? Because now client who is consuming this endpoint will say will see this particular error code, and they would know better that the whatever param that they send is doesn't exist, rather than them seeing an internal server error, and they will, which will give them an impression that something is wrong with the server, which is not the case, right? So just making this a small improvement changes a lot of things for us. So, that's it for this video. In the next video we further going to improve this by using response entity, and that is a very important concept. So stay tuned for another video.